Good morning. Good morning. And welcome. Wonderful to see you today. I'm Catherine Massey, Director of Music. Right now, I'd like to invite us all to put our phones in worship mode. And I am going to invite you to sing with me. If you would, please, if you're singing, let's wear masks for singing purposes. We are still giving the option of masks or unmasked for just being here, but as we sing, we're going to sing masked. However, I'm not, because I'm going to be leading the singing, and you won't be able to hear me. So, my students would say, "You're not doing the right thing there." Okay, our gathering song is "We Are Building a New Way." And I invite you to rise in body or spirit. It's number 1017 in the teal hymnal. However, the words are going to be up there, and if you want to help me with snapping, then you might want to keep your book down. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. Thank you.
So 5 minutes ago, Charlie asked me if I had prepared opening words. And I thought, funny that nobody asked me that before today. But then Charlie handed me this. And I remembered that decades ago, I settled upon the reading number 587. Unfortunately, it's not typical anymore for these to be in front of everyone in the sanctuary. But it's reading 587, and this is the reading I would want if the end of the world were obviously imminent. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone, for those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, for those of us who were imprinted with fear like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, for by this weapon the illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hope to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. so it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive.
Well, that's hard to follow. Nevertheless, let me give you words of welcome this morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces on this, I was going to say chilly November day. It was chilly when I took my walk, but it's warmed up considerably. And I understand it'll be 72 this afternoon. So that for November, hey, that's great. Okay. We welcome those of you who are with us in the sanctuary, including the children, and those of us who are joining us on Zoom technology. I'm Charlie Scholz, co-chair of the Sunday Service Committee, and your service associate for today. Our service leaders are Jason Galbraith, who you already heard from, and Elliot Moeller. And they're going to do a very interesting discussion for us. I think it's kind of like the Lincoln-Douglas debates. I was talking with Elliot earlier. He's a big Lincoln fan. And so I assume Jason can play the role of Douglas. Well, we'll find out. Anyway, it'll be good. You've already met our director of music, Catherine Massey, and she's supported by the UUCLC choir. Notice they're dressed in autumn colors, right? I was told autumn colors, the only thing I have is this orange sweater, so that's it. All right, we also have a tech team back there on the tech stand. That's Elwin Nunn on camera and Mike Yazzo, is that right, Mike? Sure. I got it, okay. On Zoom, right, and Claire Neal Wallace on audio, okay, so. And then our greeters today are Lynn Pearson, Carol Stanfill, and Ginny Herrick. We're all delighted to be with you today. You probably know already, but if you don't, Unitarian Universalism has no creed or dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with one another according to the Unitarian Universalist principles and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms, and everyone is welcome here. You can learn more about our church at our website, uuchurchlc.org. Now, if you're visiting us today, we'd like to meet you. If you're in the sanctuary, please rise in body or spirit, introduce yourself when I bring you the mic, and give us your name and where you're from. Do we have any visitors in the sanctuary this morning? Okay, there's one. Are we on? Oh, the couple in the back. Yes.
A lot of folks. Good morning. I am Jane Harris. I've been here previously. This is my sister, Jean Gilbert, who you all know. I am from Lawrence, Kansas, and I'm visiting here for a week.
Nice to see you. And I saw some folks back here. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Brian Nelson, and I'm here with my wife, Andrea Beatty Nelson, also Rebecca Beatty, and Cora Beatty Patterson, and Joan Beatty Darnell. And we are the family of Virginia Beatty that passed a year ago. So the last time we were here was the memorial service for Virginia Beatty. I live in Lenexa, Kansas, and I go to a UU church there called Smooch, Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Smooch. So we're delighted to be here and looking forward to the service.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Any other visitors? Yes, I see one at the end. Can I pass the mic down to you?
Hi everyone, my name is Emma. I just moved to Las Cruces in August from Boise, Idaho, and this is my dad. He's visiting from Indiana. Doug.
Anyone else? All righty. Do we have any visitors on Zoom? No visitors on Zoom. Okay. if you're a shy visitor and didn't want to stand up, be sure and fill out a visitor card before you leave. So we'll put you on the email, and you'll get all of our events and announcements. And if you're on Zoom and you haven't responded, please do the same thing. Put your name in the chat box with your email, and we'll be glad to send you announcements of our upcoming events. Okay, please join us after the service for coffee and conversation. It'll be at the RE building. I was thinking if it was chilly, it would be in the RE building, but I have a feeling it'll be outside. And let's see, it is the Seekers. The Seekers Covenant Group is hosting the coffee hour this morning. Okay. There's a slight change in the order of service. I had originally intended for the chalice lighting to come now, and then when I was typing up the order of service, I put the covenant reading first. But we're going to do the chalice lighting first. Our chalice lighting words this morning are from Reverend Christine Robinson, who some of you might know used to be up at the Albuquerque Church. We gather this hour as persons of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the light we share together. Would you please rise and join us in reciting the covenant? The words will be on the screen. And remain standing as we sing the doxology with the choir in English and Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church, and the quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into commune with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. And now it's time for all ages. And to read the story today is our Director of Religious Education, Kelly Ingram.
Good morning, church. For this morning's Time for All Ages, I will be reading the story, God's Hat. Once upon a time, there was a village with a road that went straight through the center of town. One day, something strange happened. God walked down the road, and she was beautiful. She wore a long, flowing robe, and on top of her head, there was a wonderful hat. All of the people stopped to stare at God as she walked by, and they kept staring until she disappeared into the distance. "Boy, God sure was beautiful," said one man. "And what a beautiful blue hat she had on." "Yes, God sure was beautiful," said the woman from the other side of the street. "But it wasn't a blue hat she was wearing, it was red." "You are wrong," said the man. "It was definitely a blue hat."
"No, you are wrong," said the woman. It was definitely a red hat. As the two argued, others joined in the debate. Soon the whole village was arguing. All of the people on one side of the road were certain that God was wearing a blue hat. All of the people on the other side of the road were certain that God was wearing a red hat. People got mad and started screaming at each other. Finally, the people got so angry that they decided to build a wall that went straight down the center of town. From that point on, the people on one side of the wall were all enemies with the people who lived on the other side of the wall, and they never spoke to each other. On one side of the wall, the people built a church where they worshiped a God that wore a blue hat. On the other side of the wall, the people built a church where they worshiped a God that wore a red hat. Many years passed, and the people were still enemies. Then, one day, God came walking back through that village. See, she was smiling and balancing on top of the wall that people had built many years ago. This time, she was wearing no hat at all. All the people ran to the wall and cried, "You must settle our argument." "Yes," said one man. "The people on that side of the street say that when you walked through the village many years ago, you were wearing a blue hat. But we know better. We know you were wearing a red hat. So tell us, God, what color was your hat?" God looked puzzled for a moment and began to scratch her head and thought, "I think I remember walking through this village many years ago," said God. "And on that day, I believe I was wearing my hat that is blue on one side and red on the other." And saying nothing more, God continued to walking down the wall until she had disappeared off in the distance. It was very quiet for a moment. Suddenly, there was the sound of one child laughing. Then another child started laughing, and another and another. Soon the whole village was roaring with laughter. Everyone was laughing because they realized how foolish they had been. As the sound of laughter grew louder and louder, the wall began to shake and crumble until it finally came tumbling down to the ground. For many, many years after that day, the people told the story of God's hat and how laughter had torn down the wall between a divided and foolish people.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 126 in the gray hymnal, but the words will be on the screen. It's "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." Would you rise in body and spirit? One of the ways we support each other in community is through the sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones. In these challenging times, it is crucial that we make attempts to stay connected with one another. If you have a joy, a sorrow, or a milestone you'd like to share with us this morning, please raise your hand and I will bring the mic to you. State your name and tell us what's in your heart. Yes.
For many years, amid all the woes of the world, there was one person I could always count on to make me laugh out loud, and that was the cartoonist George Booth of The New Yorker, who died this week. We will miss him, but go look up his cartoons and you will laugh out loud.
Thank you. Someone else. Yes.
Hi, Sarah here. Besides our great joy of returning from 3 weeks in New Zealand and Australia, my next joy is my son Keegan is getting married on Saturday to his longtime girlfriend, Kayla.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Katie. I'm sharing a sorrow this morning. Got word this week that my younger sister is battling her third bout of cancer, this time in the lymphatic system in her neck, and we need all the help we can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Steve Hitchcock. I'm pleased to tell you that on Tuesday I'll be 78. And let me tell you, my father didn't think I'd make it to 21.
78, I remember those days.
So those of you who have been around a while know that we don't usually pass the mic for joys and concerns. But the El Paso church does, which is why they found out a week ago that I quit my job 9 days ago.
Oh, my. All right. Someone else. Okay. I'm going to light this extra candle for all those joys and sorrows and milestones that have been expressed and all those that are still in your hearts.
If everyone would bow their heads. We thank you, O God, for your many blessings upon us. We thank you for the praises that have been announced today. And we pray for the prayer requests that have been brought forward. Our sister who has a sister who is battling cancer, and for Jason as he applies for other jobs. We know that the way to come to you in faith with prayer requests is to thank you in advance for granting for supplying our needs that we bring to you. So we thank you, Lord, in advance for bringing peace and comfort, freedom from pain and from discomfort to our sister's sister who is battling cancer. We thank you for bringing comfort and meeting the needs of Jason as he applies for other jobs. We thank you, Lord, for wisdom to see the error of mankind's ways and to know what to do with these words when Christ stated, I am the way and the truth and the life. Thank you, O God, for blessing us. Thank you for giving us wisdom also to see how we are falling out of favor with you. And thank you for giving us the wisdom to see how to reconcile ourselves to you. In the name of Christ, amen.
We are pleased today to have two service leaders. Yes. Oh, you have an anthem. Sorry, I always skip something. Thank you. Thank you, Catherine and choir. We are pleased today to have two service leaders, Jason Galbraith and Elliot Moeller. Elliot is the contract public defender for competency issues. He works here in Doña Ana County. And Jason Galbraith was the assistant DA working on, you were children's court attorney?
Until November 23rd.
Until November 23rd, so he's still there. The dialogue they share with us today is something that was inspired by something Jason wrote and something Elliot responded to. So I'm going to ask them to use individual microphones so they don't get confused here like I do. And Elliot will be on this microphone and Jason will be on this one.
Back in late August, both Elliot and our mutual friend, independently and without coordination, sent me an article by a Messianic Jew of American extraction living in Israel, the title of which was, "Is God Punishing Us?" I did not read it until Tuesday, August 30th. And this was my response. Finally read it. Pomerantz's conclusions and recommendations are a bit vague and seem to be summed up by this paragraph. The hope, of course, is that at some point the political leadership will get its act together and find a way to address the myriad of problems that the country is presently facing. However, if one accepts that this is perhaps a manifestation of God's disappointment with the USA, perhaps the nation should turn to God and pray for a return to normalcy. And this next paragraph is mine, and when Elliot answered the question at the end, not only was I surprised, I realized I had to take this to the next level. I pray for a lot of things. I end my evening prayers by asking God every night that the insanity in Ukraine end. Not specifically asking for a Ukrainian victory or the removal of Putin is perhaps a flaw in my intercessory prayer. However, I have never prayed for normalcy and never will. Too many people suffer under normalcy. I think I have made that point to you, each of you separately, re-homelessness, to which Pomerantz devotes several paragraphs. What do you pray for?
My response to Jason read thus: in my prayers on a worldwide level, I pray for the quick return of Christ in the air to rapture the church prior to the tribulation. As a pre-tribulation rapture makes the most sense to me, I think that the rapture will mark the start of approximately 7 more years of intensified insanity. I use the word approximately, considering that there may be a gap of up to a couple of years between the rapture and the precise starting point of the tribulation. The rapture itself, or events in its aftermath, may lead to the Antichrist's rise to power at the beginning of the tribulation. At least I hope that we won't be here for the first 3.5 years or more of intensified insanity. All of the insanity will come to an end only when Christ returns onto the earth at the end of the tribulation to rule for 10 centuries. Of course, there will be another brief period of renewed insanity when Satan is released from the pit for a short time at the end of Christ's millennial reign and deceives a great deal of mankind into rebelling against him.
So 15 days ago, Elliot and I got together here. We were completely alone. And I presented the first draft of my response, which was my thoughts on premillennialism and the end of the world. And I now repudiate nearly all of what I said then. Among the things I said was that premillennialism became the dominant approach to Christian eschatology in the United States because of a conspiracy among the business, political, and military elite of this country following the Civil War, which they were determined should never happen again. So that very night, I drove up to my friend in Truth or Consequences place who watches TV and movies all day due to her disability. And that night, we started out by watching Timeless, which is a show in which time-traveling agents over 2 seasons fight, the leaders of a shadowy elite conspiracy who are controlling American history over generations. And it occurred to me that people who believe in such conspiracies have watched too much television. The next night, I was preparing to leave Rhiannon's house when her mother put on something I had been waiting to watch for 3 years, episodes 5 and 6 of Good Omens, which I think many of you will have seen. It's a BBC television series from 2009 about an angel and a demon who get together when they become aware that God and Satan are jointly planning to destroy Earth in their final battle. And their goal is to save Earth, to avert the battle. This movie inspired the even better Eternals from last year, the best superhero film of all time, which is more realistic in that, the superheroes are in fact not indestructible, and even more importantly, they're not all trying to accomplish the same thing. They actually fight each other because of their disagreement as to whether they should go through with their master, who is, even Thanos would acknowledge him as a god, as to their either agreement or disagreement with their master's plan to destroy the earth. Anyway, it occurred to me that both Good Omens and Eternals are a Unitarian approach to the end of the world. Because, to a Unitarian, and I think this was true for some decades before the merger, the fate of humanity is the ultimate value. However, when I got home from Rhiannon's house the next day, on the top of the stack of DVDs directly in front of my television, which I hope visitors to my house will watch with me, was The Tree of Life, Terrence Malick's greatest film, which ends with a vision of the world, the end of the world, that I could actually get behind. And at the end of that movie, the female lead realizes that God was not punishing her. She and all humans are reconciled to God and each other. And in this sense, The Tree of Life is a universalist film because the ultimate value of universalism has always been the reconciliation of humanity regardless of its fate. Anyway, one thing that all four of these cinematic products had in common was a compelling ending, which in the case of Timeless, I actually had to look up because I didn't have a TV when it aired. But nearly everyone in this room has read the last chapter of the Bible. And I strongly suspect the majority of us are here because we didn't like it. So, now Elliot is going to tell you why he did.
I do not believe that the ultimate value is to either fight God or the fate of humanity. I don't believe that reconciliation to God of every being is the ultimate value. I believe that the ultimate value is glorification of God. We see that when Christ made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem, that his disciples, his followers, were cheering for him. And the religious leaders of the day told Christ, "Rebuke your disciples, rebuke these people, make them be silent." He answered that if I did, and they were silent, even the rocks would cry out. In Philippians 2, verse 9, Philippians 2, verse 9. Therefore God, speaking of Christ, Therefore God also has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of those in heaven and of those on earth and of those under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Something that I truly miss in my life is having a piano in my home to play. I grew up playing the piano, taking piano lessons. I donated the piano that I had to a church that I no longer attend. It wasn't exactly a twin to the piano that was already there, but the idea was that I and Granny Pogue, who plays for that church, would perhaps do duos on the piano. I, growing up playing the piano, never realized, and having played in band, a woodwind instrument, never realized that pianos, when they are played for duos, must be tuned to each other. And so the piano that I donated to the church, I had to have it tuned to the piano that was already there, because it was more more in tune than mine was at the time. But they had to be tuned to each other. It reminds me of harmonic frequencies. I see that creation is something that we want to be in tune with. God is something that we want to be in tune with. So I point to the ultimate value of the universe not saving mankind, but rather glorification of God. And I point to Revelation chapter 5, verse 8, Revelation 5, verse 7. Verse 6, if I'm from New International Version. Then I saw a lamb looking as it had. This is John's. This is John's vision in heaven. Then I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing at the center of the throne, encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. The lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. He went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And when he had taken it, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp, and they were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of God's people. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain. And with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. You have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth." Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands and 10,000 times 10,000. They encircled the throne and the living creatures and the elders. In a loud voice they were saying, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise." Then I heard every creature in heaven and on the earth and under the earth and on the sea and all that is in them saying, "To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever." I view this as a harmonic frequency event. I believe that the harmonic frequency of all creation is to glorify God. I believe that part of the glory of God is that he allows people free will to be separated from him if they wish to be so. I believe that the doors and the gates of hell are locked from the inside. I believe that The harmonic frequency event here in Revelation shows that even persons who are in hell will involuntarily, and even the demons, even Satan himself, all created by God, will involuntarily have to resonate at that harmonic frequency. For many, 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 it's going to be against their will. However, the ultimate value is not the fate of mankind. In fact, it's part of God's magnificence that he gives us free will to be separated from him if we wish. The ultimate value in the whole universe and of all creation is the glorification of Christ and of God.
Thank you, gentlemen. On a more, what should I say, common note, we've asked Haney Pearson to come and talk to us today. You probably know we're in the midst of our pledge drive. To support our church for the 2023 year. And this morning, Haney Pearson will share his thoughts with you.
Morning, church. I am not a lifelong Unitarian Universalist or UU, but I must be closing in on about 40 years as an official card-carrying member of a UU church. As such, I pledge. I grew up working in the First Baptist Church of Vienna, Virginia, as most of you know. This taught me how churches work and operate, and how to respect and be careful with other people's money. I found out that that little church did a number of things to help people in the neighborhood without fanfare. One of these was to pay the heating bills for people who were not members nor attended that church. This was not a wealthy church, and I must say, at that time, things have changed greatly. But it did what it thought was right. And as my siblings and I were nearing the age of majority, we were repeatedly told that if we lived in a community, we owed it to that community to help make it the best we could. We were also told that one of the ways we could do this was to join and support a church. My wife and I had a friend who helped to found 2 synagogues. He loved to debate. I remember one time we were debating something or other, and I said, "That's about as far as I can go, Joe, because I really don't believe in this side." He looked at me and said, "That's all right. I'll take that side." He really should have been a rabbi. Well, we were talking about something or other, and he slowly looked at me and he said, "You're a Unitarian." Well, all I knew about UUism at that time was that my cousin, don't ask, it was in the South, had been the church secretary for the church near Hunter Mill Road and Lawyers Road. It was John Lazarik's old church. It is in Oakton, Virginia, but is named the UU Church of Fairfax. And I believe the minister's name at that time was a guy named Rudy. Cousin told Rudy that all he had done was to make her realize she had to go back to her own church. Well, Lynn and I searched for the local UU church, but the road ended before we reached the street address given in the newspaper. Back east, a number of UU churches are in wooded areas with hard-to-read signs. Actually, the church in Annapolis hired somebody who actually came and told them that. Later, we had an occasion to use the services of Reverend Sidney Wild Nugent, and we really liked her. We visited her congregation and were welcomed heartily, so we joined the church and began working in that church sometime in the 80s. UU churches are about working in and for their communities. That small church had people working on a number of social justice issues, but it also had a vibe against having kids involved in their services. Committees were responsible for summer services, so as Religious Education Committee chair, I told them that I told that social justice-minded congregation a song along the line, if you do not think that the social justice issues you care so strongly about will be resolved in your lifetime, then you need to find a way to get our children interested in carrying on the struggle. I do remember that we moved to the Annapolis church in '92, and I got involved with their Sunday services committee, stewardship, and eventually their choir. That Sunday services committee functioned completely different from the work of our Sunday services committee. That committee supported Sunday services. It did not present them. Hospitality was under Sunday services. Music, meaning the choir and musicians when the choir was not singing for either one of the services. That came under Sunday service, as well as the chalice table and a couple of other things that, but you have the big three. After about 10 years in the Annapolis church, my wife and I started having discussions about staying in the DC, Annapolis, Baltimore area, and wound up visiting Las Cruces twice in 2003, like the greeter, Mr. Chambers, wound up talking to Charlie Scholz about quality measures, and generally enjoyed the services and the people. So we bought a house on that second trip, went home, told our supervisors we were going to retire. But at the time, I did not know that Lynn was being recruited by your social action committee via email. When we finally moved here, I said social action because it's social justice now, but it was social action at that time. When we finally moved here, Lynn hit the ground running. I unpacked boxes. All kidding aside, this small church has a huge heart and can do spirit. In sports, coaches are always talking about heart, but we do not use the term in any sermons. We talk about so-and-so is a big man, and it doesn't have anything to do about physical size. My brother-in-law is a big man. He is about 5 feet, 5 inches tall, maybe weighs 120 pounds with 2 bricks in the back pocket. But because of his personality and the way he goes about doing things for others, he commands respect. He is a big man. This congregation has had and continues to have lots of big men and big women. Big women doesn't sound right, does it? Okay? Okay. Well, I do not know the corresponding phrase. Maybe good woman, saint. My mother was a saint. Now, I don't want to start naming names or I will forget someone, but we all have people in this congregation we look up to and admire. Oh, I am a Unitarian Universalist, and I would contribute to the organization if there were no church here. However, this small church with a huge heart has got to continue functioning because of all the good things we all do are magnified when we do it as a congregation. Standing alone shows that you are brave, but standing together may actually get good things done. Give.
Well, that was perfectly timed. It's time for the sharing of gifts. It is said that the Lord loveth a cheerful giver, but we will accept gifts from a grumpy person too. In a moment, the greeters will pass among you to receive your contributions, but before we do that, I should mention that in addition to our support for the expenses of our church and operation and outreach, we also have, from the Social Justice Committee, a Change for Change program. This quarter's recipient for Change is the NAACP of Las Cruces. You can give to them by putting your change in the basket or by writing Change for Change on the note line of your check. Please give generously. I love that song. We're going to sing once more. This is our closing hymn, number 121, We'll Build a Land. Please rise in body or spirit.
So for closing words today, as with the first set just moments ago, I chose something from the Gray Hymnal. In fact, I opened it randomly, well, not entirely randomly, because I knew it had to be one of the readings. And I found this invocation by one of the last war leaders of the first people to inhabit this continent. Hear me, 4/4 of the world, a relative I am. Give me the strength to walk the soft earth. Give me the eyes to see and the strength to understand. Look upon these faces of children without number, that they may face the winds and walk the good road to the day of quiet. This is my prayer. Hear me.
Thank you, Jason. I want to remind you that there are announcements on the back of your order of service. Be sure to read them before you put that back in the recycle bin. And Dave Rice was going to give us a special announcement today, but I don't see Dave in the... There he is. Thank you, Dave. You have your minute, and it's at the microphone, Dave.
I didn't know I was going to get the honor to be up here. I just wanted to remind everybody it is an early time for selection of our Change for Change recipients. In the light and I believe on the website, we have the process by which we select our Change for Change recipients. We need to select 5 recipients. These are charities, local charities, that benefit from our offerings each quarter. We're currently, as Charlie mentioned earlier, we're benefiting the NAACP of Doñana County. But there are many other worthy charities in our community that would merit our attention, both our gifts of effort and money. So please nominate your favorite charity. It's not very difficult. And then we vote on December 4th by Zoom. So please submit by November 22nd. Thanks very much, Charlie.
Thank you, David. Would you join me in extinguishing the flame? The words will be on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.